I am homeless in the threatening. So, what I would like to say is, I am homeless in the threatening. Yes, but you are still watching this video if you started because it has a time length that is announced. I don't know what it is yet, but you as the viewer know what it is. That means God above knows what it is. But my videos are not fitting into television television movies, made for TV movies. It doesn't fit into any time slot. I have already the many videos posted on Charles Toe YouTube channel, and they are none of them televised by cable TV and fitting into the time slots, except for what I have seen. Cartoon Network sometimes does have cartoons that don't fit into the time slots, so that could be an exception. Yeah. Who does that? I do have cartoons that don't know you. This is the root beer dreamsicle. I'll try to mix it a little. Okay. I want all the bubbles. So, what do I want to say over a root beer dreamsicle? It's not a root beer float. Root beer with ice cream, vanilla. It's root beer with vanilla milk. And I do like it, but I'm homeless here. What I have to say is about my order, and you're still alive in the threatening that you're not going to jail for me either. And I'm alive in the threatening that if you don't save yourself, you'll be put out of the order and you will be responsible for that. You will know it. And if you couldn't move yourself another way and you know that, I assume that I've never met you in my life. But if I've met you, you have that you can do something with God for God. And you're a blasphemy if you think that God gave you everything I needed for myself so that you could feed me, that you need to control the population of strangers. You make more strangers when you do that, and you can't cover for that. You made illegal alive strangers, and they are lost somewhere in the public, and you may know who they are at some point, but you don't know who they are before you do something wrong that conceives themselves. I have a back injury today, and I can't take the pain for very long. How did it happen? I shouted in a back injury to myself. I shouted and I got a back injury. I can't help that. That means somebody did something wrong and they think that I'll never find out. So, what I would like to say about myself deceased is I do know you in the threatening, but I don't know you elsewheres in God. I don't know you homeless in the threatening. I don't know you having any personality discomforts. That means I think there is a God who is making the many of you, who is not a God that I am very close with when I'm not here. Well, we're going out of that problem, but it's been done before, except this time he executed the feminine genitals on the Godhead, and now they are described as mutilated genitals on the Godhead, and I have mutilated genitals is that they are feminine. Now the feminine genitals are mutilated and they don't go lower. That means it can't be like that the animal genitals would have me in there. No. If you like your happy dog, say goodbye because it's almost over for itself. I'll be done shouted when I am deceased out of my genitals. When I am deceased out of my genitals, and it's more than that. I'm deceased out of the genitals on the Godhead, period. All of them, period. No one can afford me. You don't afford what I do for myself in the leverage to decease myself. You don't have that you're deceased with myself, with yourself. and you're very small in comparison, and you don't have what it is to decease yourself, is really pointed at that you need to be reformed. But I can't reform you because I'm deceased out of my genitals. Is anyone reading the title and the description of the video and then making a comment? You didn't actually watch the video? Just wondering. So when am I stopped shouted? I'm not shouted anymore when you don't see me anymore. Then it's not shouted anymore, but I have another problem. I'll see you in the afterlife in Superior Founder in a godhead that has no genitals. Yeah, so that's already died. Well, where are we going to catch up with Joellen Myroff? Because I need a godhead for what she just did to herself. She's a 5-year-old, I know, as the size of a 5-year-old, but she was there at the size of a 4-year-old. I know Abby Schoenfeld at the age of 4 and Abby Schoenfeld at the age of 5. Abby Schoenfeld, I know her in my first year of kindergarten. But Joellen Myroff, she was in kindergarten in the same classes, 4 of them. But she was in a classroom I didn't go into because it didn't have a wall that retracted, like a movable wall. My kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Plesko, had a wall between her class and the class of Mrs. Miller, and the wall retracted, and I could see that class without leaving my classroom. But I walked right across the room. It was sitting in Mrs. Miller's classroom, but it didn't go out, like it went through the wall, right? So, with the wall pushed to the side, I guess you could say it's electric, and it folded and went up against the wall that way. So that's how I met Abby Schoenfeld, but we don't talk. Kindergartners don't talk. It's introduced by, like, they call your names for attendance. That's how I know the kids in the kindergarten class. They were still children at that time. Yeah, I would say that we were children at that time. How did I get to Joellen Myroff's class? Well, there are 4 that are like that, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and hers is like that way. It's kindergarten. I remember because I'm not really doing school, and I had a few events in kindergarten that made me a professional student for like 20 years and some more after that. So I have too much leverage against myself. In kindergarten, there was a problem with Prasanthi Gandhi, Indian, Shane Wen, Asian. Abby Schoenfeld changed her last name to Abby Schoenfeld, but she still spells it Schoenfeld. I found that out later, yeah. But I heard the announcement in kindergarten. When it was K4, it was Abby Schoenfeld. When it was K5, it was Abby Schoenfeld. And then what else about Wendy Rauscher? She invited me to her house on a snow day, and that was a disaster. Why was the car moving when the buses wouldn't move? Because I take the bus to school, and the bus wouldn't come for this. The snow stopped the bus schedule and the bus route. So there was no bus, and my mom took me in a car to Wendy Rauscher's house, so that was terrible. in the snow. Yeah. um, Wisconsin, yep, winter. When I was smaller, there was more snow. When I was taller, there was less snow. Even though I grew up, it's still less snow. I can tell the difference. It's less snow. When I was first alive, my house had one snow day with the snow all the way up the window of the first ground level of the house. It's a 3-level house. You can go in the basement, so that's basement window is covered with snow. And then this first level and the ground level of the house, the snow was up over the window, nearing the top of the window. Yeah. And then you could go upstairs and you could look out through the window and you could see the snow down there. And then, so that would have been year 1982, something like that. Winter. Joellen Myroff says she's friends with Wendy Rauscher, but I don't know those two together on this snow day. Are we here about that? Because Mom took me to Wendy Rauscher's house, and it was myself going in there alone. And when I was inside the house, I saw who I would now call Mrs. Rauscher because she didn't leave the last name Rauscher. And then Wendy Rauscher was in there. I know Wendy from kindergarten, the mom figure who opened the door. I didn't see her before I had been there as a guest to the house. And I don't know anyone else in the house. Wendy and I went down to the basement and played with her toys. And she had a plastic car. I sat in the car and I walked around like the Flintstones. And that was the day. Joellen wasn't there. No. Wendy, do you testify as well that Joellen wasn't there? You can't do that. I have to tell you what I see. Have you been to small claims court or have you seen it on TV? If you're in small claims court, you can't give testimony. You can't. And that's why the judge says sometimes she thinks that you're lying. If you're there and you're asked to speak, you have to make it known to the judge that you think that it's perjury because you're not myself. And you're far away from that in the money. You don't know, I am myself deceased and I don't have any leverage to move this creation around myself because you're here because you're formed by Jesus. So it doesn't really move around me that way. You wouldn't see me making any order around myself with you. I didn't form you. That's why you take my keys is not paid for. For example, if I was the judge in a small claims court and I called you into the small claims court, I would say, this is plaintiff and defendant. There isn't any. It's really me being judge. And if I'm speaking, that's what I'm saying. And you wouldn't speak in front of me. I would not ask you to. So if you have small claims court with a judge in a black robe like Judge Judy or Judge Millian or other Judge Gregory Mathis, there are others. Those judges, they ask you questions and they call it like, it's not an interview. It's not a deposition. It's an interrogation. What do you call it when the judge speaks to the plaintiff? Wouldn't the plaintiff be complaining that the judge is speaking to the plaintiff at all? You're not Becky. None of them ever say that. You're not Becky or you're not the soul of the superior founder deceased. You don't know how to say that. You don't have any leverage and you all have my keys. You have so much heavy karma on you because I said that you have my keys. Like who has people, anyone who's invited me to their housing, even the public buildings. If you lock me out of a supermarket, you have my keys. If you have cars in the parking lot when I'm at the supermarket, you have to drop all your car keys on the ground because they're not yours anymore because I'm there. I move the leverage. I move all of creation around myself. 100 people in a supermarket can drop their keys and walk out and walk all the way away from the supermarket, all the way to the nearest jail and go inside. And I will move it for you. You don't have any sort of faith in me, but I don't know why. I don't need that you don't, because you don't move creation around yourself. You have major identity theft problems. I call it identity crisis because you don't know who I am. That's an identity crisis of yourself. You don't know who I am. I know who I am, and I am okay with it. Yeah. So the most hot keys so far are the keys of the people who have ordered sexual abuse on myself, and that I am to cooperate so that I understand that you are over me is your personality problem, that you're going to get all up in my face and introduce yourself like I haven't seen that before as a godhead, and I don't have those godhead genitals anymore. I have mutilated genitals on myself. I would say feminine genitals on the godhead, but they are mutilated. So why do you have to introduce yourself to me? It's nothing I haven't seen before, Dad. Well, I'm about out of this root beer float. Oops. Dreamsicle. I can get another can of root beer because I still have half of this left. It's vanilla milk. It's hard to find. I have on the shelf right now a number of original plain milk with no flavoring, no sweetening in it. And I can use it for cereal because cereal is already sweet. But vanilla milk, I really wanted that to mix with any of the soda that I might get. So it's no to the vanilla milk after this one, and I have like two more. And then, so it's on to the plain milk after that, and I have to do something about the plain milk. Joellen Meyerhoff's kindergarten class is, if you make a square and you go diagonal, her class is diagonal to where I was in Mrs. Plasko's class. So Mrs. Randall, I just want you to know that Joellen does not afford you as a kindergarten teacher. Maybe Joellen remembers me better from Mrs. Koenig's class in second grade. She was still in school, and so was I. Joellen went all the way through university, and she never gave me anything. Well, okay, I'll say she made the most expensive macaroni and cheese once. I had other food, though. I didn't really need it. I could have left her house to go eat someplace. Yeah. At the time she made the macaroni and cheese, I could leave and eat someplace else. So, Joellen, she went to Oregon all by herself, and she's running up enormous expenses. She is working as a teacher right now, kindergarten is what she said. But it used to be, she used to teach fourth grade, maybe. I might be wrong about that, but it was an older grade. She said she used to teach fourth grade, but now it's kindergarten. So what I want to know is, how am I going to see Joellen again when I'm going to have my whole body, Godhead, God form deceased in the genitals? I'm just describing that she did more crime on me than I've ever seen. She's really not female doing that, but she's female. But she's a grown kindergartner. That means we didn't have feminine development until we were, I guess, about 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. Yeah, so we were children together. Child, I'm not really a child, I'm the Godhead. But we were children together, and then we were older, growing up as youth, kids, and then so we were female. I guess you could say 18 and older is female, but so feminine, still girls in high school. Well, so where is she going with all this money that she has in Oregon? She started a small town in Oregon called Klamath Falls, and then she started another small town in Oregon called Talent, Oregon. Talent, Oregon? Talent, Oregon. Do you say Oregon? Oregon. Oregon. You know, near Washington State, state of Washington. State of Oregon. Yeah. Why isn't she just in jail? You don't know how to be in jail for all the time it takes for me to decease myself. When I decease myself, I'm not going to be in the jail for as long as you have been in public. When I decease myself, I'll be in a prison of sorts for the time it takes for me to transition out of this Godhead so I don't look like this anymore. And then I'm out. But I still have all the karma of that I was here and I died out of alive. I died out of alive. Who's gonna alive for you? That's the point. If you don't know me, I can't alive for you because you don't alive yourself. And if you alived yourself, you would know who I am.